inçolar yanapular Sam. Inita vlog yan Quebec City de Canada de und urna bhashe French und itte 5-star vlog
Inchular, sir.
Yeah, something. Inchular.
If I'm counting things, I'll count in Tulu, Onjira, de Mujinale. That just reinforce what I know. And that's the best I can do by myself. It's just that reinforcement. Talking about how I learn languages. I'm really glad you could have me on here today.
Okay. Well, good evening, viewers from Mangalore. But it's good morning in Rhode Island in the US, in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, or close to it.
Close by. Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. So with me on this show tonight is Samuel Dragomire. Now, why will American on a show from newskarnataka.com? Because he has a lot of interest in Karnataka. Not just in its places, which I think he visited in 2022, I'll confirm that, but also in its languages, especially Kannada and Tulu. He's just 23 years old, and he has achieved more than what many of us have achieved maybe in 50, 60 years, in the sense of the modern generation. He's a YouTuber of substantial fame. He's got 5,500 subscribers. He's a polyglot, which is basically a multilinguist. He's fluent in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian. I'll stop there. We'll ask him a little later. And he also has a dual degree in economics and mathematics from the University of Connecticut. He has been very active on the YouTube because he's a very good content creator. He makes videos showing how he learns languages and the places that he travels to. He also offers online tutoring and coaching services, I think, for language learners. And he's currently working, so I gather, on his own language learning app, which he probably plans to launch either 2024 or 2025. We'll come to that in a little while. But what I'd like to focus on today is his love for learning languages, how he learns them, and what does he do with that learning. I think his learning is related, is the way he learns languages is to actually create content with that language, understand the culture of the place, and talk in the language that actually the place is famous for. Now, for instance, Mangalore and Udupi are Tulu-speaking areas, and he has fallen in love with the language, as one of his recent videos showed me. He has fallen in love with Tulu because he finds it really fascinating, and Kannada, of course. So we are going to talk to him in a wide-ranging conversation, which we're going to have with Samuel, about all the things that he does on YouTube and how he got there. So let's begin, Samuel. Very good morning to you, I think I should say, because he's speaking to us from Rhode Island in the US. So before I go into the questions as such, I just want to know which comes first. This is the chicken and the egg story. Is it the language that influences culture, or is it the culture that influences language?
I think that's a tough question, but I think it is the language, actually. When I'm learning a language, that determines how people are thinking. It determines what people are communicating to each other, and from that stems the culture. And whenever I want to learn about a new culture, I know that the language should come first. That when I want to learn about a foreign place, even if I'm just learning topical things about the language and never learning it fully, I want to know something about that language, because I feel like that is the kind of best way to to learn about other people, especially from very different cultures.
Okay. I gather you visited Karnataka in 2022. Am I correct in that assumption?
Actually, I have never been to India, so I have been learning from the United States these past several years, and the point that I wanted to prove when I started my YouTube channel is that it is possible for people to learn a language on the other side of the world that even with minimal resources. And the way to do that is just speaking. I think speaking is crucial to anyone's language learning, and that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part because you're always going to make mistakes. I cannot say exactly what I'm thinking because when you're learning, it's too complicated to do that. So just trying to say what you know and getting out what you can, that's the best way to improve. So that's kind of where I'm going with my YouTube channel, just to show that it is possible even without going somewhere.
Okay, so here nalla kudlaka bainjir.
I kullage povere bodu.
Barbarata. Yepa barbarere. Yepa plan malpare.
Yepa gotiji. Vega pove bodu.
Okay, great. Just a few questions in Tulu I also wanted to ask you, but because our audience also would like to hear you speak Tulu. But we'll come back to that, the Tulu part in a short while.
Okay.
But you are a graduate of mathematics and economics. Where does language come into this?
Language has always kind of been a part of what I have done. You know, it's been a long journey for me through my undergraduate degree till I got my Bachelor of Science in Economics. Before I was actually in the military for 3 years. I was in the Coast Guard, and with the Coast Guard, I kind of focus on the international relations aspect. And I had been learning Portuguese for a while at that point, and when I got to be able to speak fluently and in a working proficiency, Coast Guard actually put me on a ship, and when we were going to Portugal, I was the official translator for the inbound and outbound leg of that trip, communicating with the maritime pilots and with the local port, which was the first time I got to use a learned language in a professional setting, and I thought that was really interesting. And there are some extra words that you have to learn for that. But yeah, even though my studies haven't been exactly geared towards languages, I've always found ways to incorporate them into what I do, and it's still a big part of who I am.
Okay, but as a child, did you hear many languages at home or in school or at your play, at your creche or wherever you were going for the day?
Actually, surprisingly, not too many languages I heard. My dad does speak some French, and that's about it. But both my parents are English speakers at home, and most of what I've learned has been either from education or from teaching myself and talking with other people online across the world.
Okay, so basically your love for language has not come from what you were hearing around you. It has come from within you, apparently.
Correct.
Can you tell me what is it that sparked that interest in you, and at what age? You're 23, 24 right now, so at what age did you actually get into this?
I was interested at least by 6th or 7th standard. I knew that I wanted to learn languages. It started with French, I studied French formally in school, but then later I wanted to know Portuguese, which there weren't any resources for at my school. So that was a language I took upon myself to go out and find the resources. And luckily, there are a lot of Portuguese-speaking people in the area that I live, so I was able to communicate with them, which is what made me realize that it is possible to learn really any language as long as you have the people to communicate with. So Portuguese is a lot easier for an English speaker to pick up than, say, Kannada or Tulu. But I realized that if you have those people to speak to, you could really learn any language. And that's why that's how I'm able to learn Tulu and Kannada.
Okay, and if you know Portuguese reasonably fluently, Konkani is the next step.
I guess so. Yes, there are many loan words, many similar words in Portuguese.
Yes,
that's what I understand.
Yes. And we also speak Konkani. So next time we should speak in Konkani.
I haven't learned anything in Konkani yet, but I will eventually.
You will. So how many languages do you actually speak fluently?
Fluently?
Yeah.
I would say English, Portuguese, Spanish. I'm hesitant to say any others fluently just because I can't fully express what I want, but yeah, I would say those three at this point. I hope to get fluent in Tulu soon.
Okay. Some people find it really hard to learn languages, and some people really pick up on it very, very easily. What is your view on that?
There might be some mental block for the people who believe they can't pick up a language quickly, because I think they might just be confused and they're not trying in the methods that are most supportive to them. Some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners. Maybe they've tried one way, but they haven't tried others. And I would suggest people to try different methods of learning. If reading from a book is not your best way to learn, try listening to other people speaking in videos, in podcasts. Try speaking yourself. I would say to anybody who's running into difficulties, just mix up how you're learning a little bit.
Okay. Because personally also, I sometimes find it a little difficult to pick up new languages. So maybe I should learn from you, and maybe I will pick up a few languages that I can speak to you in, which I don't normally use, like Portuguese, for instance. Okay. So we got your motivation for languages. I've got what motivated you. But apart from languages, apparently languages is not your main thing. Economics and mathematics were your main subjects. So now you got into languages. But apart from language learning and video content creation, what are your other hobbies and interests? Because I'm sure your range of interests are quite wide.
Yes, for sure. Apart from language and studies, in my free time, I really enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy hiking, trekking in nature. Where I live, I'm lucky enough to be by beautiful ocean. So just going out, enjoying the scenery, enjoying nature, that's always been one of my favorite hobbies.
And how do you balance your time? Like, for instance, what all do you do? I mean, apart from I see you're doing one per week, almost one per week. I saw at least Kannada and Tulu. I was just looking at your YouTube channel, and I saw that you had almost one a week, and I saw 8 or 9 there. And one was also about learning what is Kannada, what is Tulu. There was a video on that too. We'll come back to that. But
okay.
How do you split your time really?
Well, recently, yes, I have been making a little bit more videos than normal, just because towards the end of the year, the academic responsibilities have kind of waned down a little bit. I've had more free time, clearly, so I'm able to make those videos. But during the semesters of the year, I make less videos just because I want to maintain that quality in the videos, and I'm always trying to improve. From each video forward, I try to make them better. So yeah, I make sure the quality is there, and if I can't make a video, I can't make a video, and sometimes that time span between each video is going to increase just when I'm busy, but it's always on my mind. I'm always trying to think of new ideas and new videos to make, so it's there in my head.
And that's my next question. Now, you said you have never been to Mangalore or Udupi or Bangalore or wherever.
Correct.
And I saw quite a few videos from Mysore, Bangalore, and you're talking about cows, you're talking about this. How do you get your ideas, and why do you pick up a particular subject?
My ideas just come from what I enjoy doing here in Rhode Island. If it's going out in nature, seeing the cows, I video that, and I just try to make it in Tulu. If I am making food, or if I'm doing something around the house, I make a video. I'll make a video of going somewhere with my family. It's really just that, and yeah, I just try to show my life to other people in their own language, which I feel like is a great way to do it.
It's an absolutely great way to do it, but the thing is, the words that you use when, let's say, when you're speaking Kannada or Tulu, and when you're making a video and you actually want to speak in the language, telling us about your life in our language, do you actually write down a script or something like that, or you just emote, or
I will think about the video beforehand. I'll think about what words I should learn, and what things I need to know before I make the video. But I never have a script when I'm speaking Tulu. I'll prepare beforehand, but then I'll say what I want to say. And a lot of it comes from my own vocabulary list that I've been expanding over the past few months. I have printed out sheets of paper with Tulu, Kannada, and English vocabulary all listed beside each other. And I just go through this, their adjectives, conjunctions, verbs, and I'll look what I need. I'll try to make sentences in my head, and then I'll make videos, and I'll go from there.
I think that's a great way to do things, and it's something that I should learn from. But when I speak a language that I don't know, or if I'm in a strange surrounding, and if I have to speak in the language of that place, I feel a little inhibited. But do you have those inhibitions when you actually speak? It's not fluent, and people might have a different reaction to whatever you're saying because it's not fluent. Does that inhibit you in any way? Do you feel those inhibitions?
Oh, for sure. I am always conscious that I can't say what I want to say, and I could make mistakes that might offend some people, and that's never something I want to do. But I've been told again and again that speaking is the best way to improve, and if I'm speaking each day a little bit more, I'm happy with that. And honestly, when I started making my videos, I don't know if you noticed, but my earliest videos, I speak in English about the languages that I'm learning. I speak about Kannada Lipi, I speak about Tulu, what is Tulu in comparison to other languages. And after I made those, a lot of the comments I received indicated that people wanted to hear me speak Tulu, and that's what my viewers really wanted. So from there, I actually started kind of changing how I made my videos into just more vlog style videos of me speaking the language. And I didn't want to do that at first because I knew I wasn't fluent, but that's what people wanted. So I knew that's what I had to do.
And once you did that, I mean, once you got out of your comfort zone and went into somebody else's comfort zone, because basically when you speak another man's language, you're stepping out of your comfort zone into somebody else's comfort zone. Did you get any negative feedback, or was it all positive, or what was the reaction like?
I got a lot of positive feedback, yes. I also got feedback telling me that I could use different vocabulary, better, more precise words, and I really appreciate that feedback. Even criticism like that, I can learn from, because I'll look at it and I'll write it down, and when I make the next video, I'll try not to make the same mistake. But I appreciate all the feedback I've been getting, yes.
Okay, that's a great thing, because positive and constructive feedback, I think, always helps us grow. Your YouTube channel is doing pretty well. When did you actually start it, and what made you go onto YouTube or use social media to actually get into this language learning, what you call it, promotion?
Well, really, it was just a way to document my progress. It was something I wanted to do so that in the years to come, I could look back and see where I started and where I've come from. Because I think it's really hard to know what your progress is in the moment. When you're learning a language, you can only measure progress in the big time frame. And YouTube was a way that I could measure that progress. And honestly, when I started the videos, I had no idea that people, especially in Mangalore, would be so interested. And that really came from the vlog style videos that I did. But yes, initially I had just made it about learning the Kannada Lipi, telling what I know about the languages, and that's about it.
Yeah, but Tulu and Kannada, you have not. I don't know. Maybe I was the mistaken impression that you had actually visited our places and then you listened to the language and then you developed that interest in these two languages. But if you have not really visited these places, what actually made you pick up Tulu and Kannada to learn? I mean, you picked up other languages, but what made you pick up Tulu and Kannada to learn actually?
That's a good question. Where I was going into my university for my undergraduate degree, there were some foreign students and they ended up coming from Karnataka. From that, I was friends with them and I wanted to learn their language. That's just, when I meet people from a different place, I'm so tempted to learn their language, and it was a great experience. I started learning Kannada at first because I knew everyone in the state spoke Kannada, or a lot of people in the state spoke Kannada, either as a first or second, third language. But my friends were actually not native Kannada speakers. One was from Udupi, who spoke Konkani. Another was from near to Mangalore and spoke Tulu. And they kept telling me that Kannada wasn't actually what they spoke at home. And it's so crazy for someone like here in the United States who is only speaking English and everyone around him is mostly speaking English, maybe some Spanish, but it kind of took me a few months to realize, okay, I need to be learning these smaller languages that are actually what people speak, even though the state has kind of deemed Kannada as the official language. So yeah, that's how I got into that.
Yeah. In fact, you should visit Pandita Baroda, Kudlaga, because in Mangalore city itself, I think there are about 5 languages that are spoken. There are 5, and linked to those languages, there are 5 cultures that actually coexist. There is Kannada, of course. There is Tulu. There is Konkani. Konkani has got 2 dialects. Actually, 2 dialects. 2 different communities speak it in different ways. We have Biri, Hindi, Kurgi. So there are actually 5. It's a melting pot of different languages and cultures, and each coexists with the other so beautifully. That's why it's a place for a polyglot like you that you have to visit.
Yes, it sounds amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, it is amazing because in most. Oh, by the way, actually, most nations they speak one language, and some states in Karnataka they speak. Some states in India they speak one language, but Karnataka is a state where so many languages coexist. That's the beauty of it. Just this morning, speaking of nations, just this morning we heard the news of a severe earthquake in Japan. So, yeah, starting the new year with that news was not a very good thing. But anyway, that's a nation that also speaks one language throughout the country, whereas India speaks several languages throughout its 32 states. I mean, to all the states, so many languages are spoken. Some states speak one language, some states speak multiple languages. And within those languages, there are dialects. So it's for a polyglot like you, I think that's a lot to learn. Let's come back to the, how do you actually use these languages in your daily life? I mean, you're learning other languages, but when you speak, when you're at home or when you're in your milieu, you speak mainly English. So, I mean, of what use is it to you?
So that's correct. It is quite difficult to find ways to use it in my daily life here. Usually because there's not people that I can speak to in person. So when I'm speaking, it will always be usually online to somebody, or I can think in my head, but I'll try to think of situations like in my day-to-day life where I can say things in Tulu, even if it's just out loud to myself. If I'm counting things, I'll count in Tulu, Onjira de Mujinale. I'll do things that just reinforce what I know, and that's the best I can do by myself. Is just that reinforcement, and yeah, I think that will help to some degree.
Maybe you could make some calls to friends in India, wherever you're. I mean, maybe Karnataka or whichever language you want to speak, and make friends and then call them up. And then talk to them a little bit here and there, so that you at least keep in touch with the language that you're learning. Because if you don't, then the language itself dies down. That's my experience, at least.
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you like to talk to me in any language? I mean, other than English, of course, Kannada, Tulu. Would like to talk to? Say something. If you'd like to talk to me or ask me questions.
In Tulu. I don't know what to say. In Chular, sir.
Yeah, something.
Yanla Sakya.
Okay. So, here Kandita Barparata, Pullaga Kandita Barparata.
Kullalaga Barparata. Inka Kullaga.
Yeah.
Kullaga Pope Board.
Plan one.
I have plan.
Yeah, plan. Okay, great. We'd love to see you here. I think it's been a very fulfilling conversation. If there's anything that you'd like to say that I missed out on asking you, you could bring it up.
We covered a lot. Yeah, that was mostly what I was planning to cover. Just talking about how I learn languages. I'm really glad you could have me on here today. Talk about languages. That's what I love, and I'm glad that people are interested in that. So, yeah.
By the way, do you teach any language, or do you plan to teach, or do you teach?
I do. I really want to kind of spread more awareness for Tulu language. And at this point, I cannot teach anything in Tulu. I have had experience teaching some English to Portuguese speakers, and subsequently I've taught some Portuguese. But I think it's really important to spread knowledge of Tulu language. And once I get fluent into the far future, I do plan on creating some sort of way to teach the Tulu language, because there aren't a lot of resources out there as of right now compared to other languages to teach the language. There's one website that I think is really great called Learn Tulu, Easy Tulu Learning Online. That is where I get all of this vocabulary from that I've printed out as quizzes and stuff. But that's like the one main site I use, and I think in the future, if some more content can be created to help people learn, that would be great.
I'm sure with your passion for the language, not only Tulu but all languages, and if you collaborate with somebody who is interested in the same language, I think wonders can be worked. I'm sure about that. And because of your passion, ultimately all these things depend upon passion. It's not just about anything else. It's what's motivating you to give of your best to people. So it's been a wonderful conversation, Samuel.
Yes, sir, it has.
I didn't want it to be an interview. I wanted it to be a conversation between friends from different parts of the world, and that's what it is. I'm sure our viewers will love it, and we hope to see you talking Tulu much more fluently the next time we meet. Until then, au revoir.
Thank you.